Hey, good morning, guys. Javier here with the real Javier Novo, and I just wanted to do a quick sort of ad hoc video response because I've been getting a lot of email responses from our latest series on interiorism. We're going to be going in deep. We're going in deep with evidence and with proofs, scientific and philosophical, about interiorism, and that's going to be very fun. But I'm seeming to get a lot of attention now and email from the scientific minded people, or the so called scientific minded people, and it's kind of funny. And I just wanted to give my thoughts on it because a lot of the emails I get are, again, how are you going to prove this? And you're delusional, and how are you going to prove that the interior is the exterior when what I see is what I believe? A lot of people are saying, oh, I'll only believe in something if and when I see it, which is very rich, guys, because we don't actually live our lives that way. And Murray Rothbard, who was a great economic writer, he quoted somebody in the natural law community who said that a proposition becomes an axiom when, in trying to refute it, someone either tacitly or openly uses or assumes that proposition. And let me just give you a quick example. If someone were to say humans don't have any free will, and then they were to engage in a debate on that, well, by the very act of engaging in that debate, they're actually contradicting themselves, and they're establishing the proposition that humans do have free will as an axiom, because if humans didn't have free will, what would be the purpose in debating someone to try to convince them? They have no free will in being convinced. And furthermore, what would be the purpose of taking any action? Because if humans didn't have free will, then action would have no effect anyway, and we wouldn't take any action, but we don't live that way. And yet, a lot of our thought processes are such that we basically separate the way we actually live from our thought processes. I hope you understand me just a little bit. You know, Bilal Phillips, who was a great Islamic scholar, talked about the fact that you have scientists in their laboratories and they're very rational in their very specific niche, their very specialized niche. But when they go out of that, they will go and bow down to a statue. So this is just the fact that we're rational in some compartments of our lives, but we're irrational in other compartments of our lives. And I love science and I love empirical research. I love giving empirical proofs. And there are so many empirical proofs for interiorism. In fact, I have case studies. I've done many experiments, which I'm fixing to share in these series. But let us assume, for the sake of argument, and I've made some videos about this in the past, but I want to do it in a way that's very clear and in a way that we've never really done it before here. Let's assume that there's no empirical proof for interiorism. And let us assume that everything I'm saying is simply a fantasy and it's all made up. Your interior has nothing to do with your exterior. Will and desire have no effect on the outside world, except to the extent that I can physically do something. To the very limited extent that, for example, I will to go grab a glass of water in this room, I can probably go and do it, although there may be some factors inhibiting that. That's empirically undeniable. But let's say that there's no proof for any of this. Well, first of all, we have to understand that empiricism in general has one major flaw that actually makes it uncertain. And that is this. In order for something to be proven empirically, and the philosophers of science have talked about this, John Stuart Mill talks about this in A System of Logic. In order for something to be completely proved empirically, we would have to have an eternity of subject matter to study. I hope you understand me just a little bit. Let's say, for example, that there was some sort of process whereby every time I hit the white ball in pool and it hit the black ball, that black ball would go into the hole. Excuse me, I don't have good pool terminology. Let's say that that happened 100 times out of 100. Let's say that that happened 1,000 times out of 1,000. If we were consistent empiricists, we would still leave open the possibility that on the 1,001 time, that ball wouldn't go into the hole. So therefore, empiricism can never be conclusively proved. All that means is that there's always doubt. No matter how many proofs I show you, there can be doubt. And no matter how many proofs you give to the contrary, there can be doubt. In fact, Karl Popper, the philosopher of science, talks about the fact that for any scientific proposition to be acceptable, it must be falsifiable. There must be a way through which or by which you could falsify the proposition. But guys, this is about life management. This is about living, and in living, we don't have time to go through an eternity of experiments. We have to be able actually to deduce conclusions from one observation, or from very few observations. And we all live our lives that way. Even those who say they believe in science, we live our lives that way. I remember years ago I read Alan Watts' The Way of Zen. And he was talking about the fact that in many ancient societies, mystical societies, they would make decisions via divination or via animal bones, and they would allow those, or they would look at the grounds in their coffee, and they would allow this to make decisions for them. And of course, the rational modern minds, modern in that time meaning 70 years ago or so, would say, that's a silly way to make a decision. No, you should gather all the data, and you should, try to figure it out and try to make sense of the data and then act. Well, there's an eternity of data. If we were to gather all of the data, we would never act. How can you guarantee that the sun is going to rise tomorrow? Do you have all the data in that regard? No, we only have a tiny subsection of the data in that regard. So this is enough to lay to rest those people who say, oh, I'm solely empirical and I just believe what I see. You could not live life that way. You do not live life that way. So again, let us say that there's absolutely no empirical proof for interiorism. It is known by studies, guys, and I ask you, I will reference studies, but do we really need studies for this? Guys, if you wake up and you meditate and you become present and you get in a good mood, tell me without an empirical study, is it more likely you're going to have a good day or a bad day if you wake up on the right side of the bed in a good mood with a positive outlook? It's much more likely you're going to have a good day. Even though this is not going to hold for every day, you're directing yourself in the direction of the probability that you'll have a better day. If I'm more hopeful or more fearful, will I feel better? And guys, we talk about in this channel that thoughts and feelings don't matter, and that's true for interiorism. But that's all for feeling good. This is all to feel good. And you want to feel good most of the time. These methods and modalities that we teach in interiorism are geared towards helping you feel better. And when you feel better, you're going to get better results. Guys, Do you need a study to tell you that if you visualize, let's say you're going to talk to an important person, if you rehearse that and visualize it, do you think you're going to have a better chance for a good outcome rather than just going in there cold and blind? How to stop worrying and start living, and how to make friends and influence people, this was almost 100 years ago, told you to do that without empirical scientific studies. Of course, the studies prove this, guys. Athletes do this all the time. They visualize. So the point of this is, I don't care if you believe it. You don't have to believe this. You see, any management system worth its salt does not require you to believe it. Just like a car does not require you to believe it to start it. So you don't have to believe that interiorism is rationally and empirically proved. Although it is, guys, and there's so much evidence for it, that's the empirical evidence. And again, the empirical evidence will never be 100% certain. Now, I ask you, if you have a goal, is certainty in the outcome better? Or is doubt as to whether you're going to achieve that better? Well, some people may say, if I doubt that I'm going to achieve it, then I'll work harder. But if you doubt that you're going to achieve it, you're then simply fixated upon that result for success. And as the Stoics teach us, and every psychological writer since who knows that we want to be psychologically sane and healthy as we go through life. If you're just pursuing one goal that, of course, has a chance not to work out or to work out, and you spend years pursuing that, and you get there and it doesn't work out, were not those years wasted? Have you not wasted your life? Now, if you're certain as to that goal being achieved, or what we call an intention, and then you let that go to the universe, and then you go through every moment, every day, consciously, and trying to extract the maximum benefit and joy from everything that you do, is that not a better path? Because even if you don't reach that intention, you will still have enjoyed the path. I think that this path is better. And I think that interiorism takes all of the self-help and psychological aphorisms and teachings and doctrines and basically boils them down to their logical, conceptual conclusion, to the max. Because again, psychiatrists will say, try to find the positive in every situation. What interiorism says is that every situation is positive because you can create at every moment of the process, because what is within is the actual reality and you have full control of what is within. The Stoics will say, focus on what you can control and do not focus on what you cannot control. Interiorism says you can control everything by focusing within. It is the logical pinnacle, so to speak, of all of these systems. Why not take them all the way? And there's not a lot of harm in this, because interiorism is not solipsism. We're not teaching you to simply go within and to reject the outer. All we're teaching you to do is to pause every now and then and to remember, reality is within, and you have your hands on all of those controls, on all of those levers. You have your hands on the steering wheel. And you can steer your life. And what that does is, guys, just from a purely empirical outlook, just from a purely practical outlook, is that allows you to turn in the direction of the greatest possible benefit at all times. And you're increasing your probability. For example, if you want to start a business and you fail, many people just give up after that. Oh, I took the shot. But if you keep going and you learn your lessons from the previous iterations, because you have an inner path, because you know that that's already done within, because you practice the teachings of interiorism, then you will keep facing the way of the probable outcome, and just by law of probabilities, eventually you're going to get it, guys. Again, this is just a very unscientific, just very casual perusal of the actual benefits of this, guys. So, for those of you who believe in science, for those of you who want apodictic proof, we're not going to give you apodictic proof because nothing in science is apodictic. But what I can give you is a lot of data. What I can give you is encouragement. But it's up to you to take this and say, you know what? I'm going to act as if I believe. I'm going to act as if my interior is the only reality and that the exterior is the interior, and therefore my interior has the largest impact and influence on my exterior. And I'm going to keep moving forward with that. And I want you to see what it does in your life. And then, as Eckhart Tolle said, don't look for proof, you be the proof. So a lot of people emailing me for proofs, there are your proofs. And we're going to be going on with this series in interiorism. We're going to be giving you a lot of interesting scientific and philosophical data and propositions and proof. It's going to be very fun. But remember, you're never going to find that ultimate proof because you are the proof. So just wanted to release that video and respond to these few emails that I got. So until very soon, guys, much love and appreciation. This is Javier, and I will see you guys later.